Okay, what's up YouTube? Welcome to another Fantasy Football Scout video with me, Lee, and this is Sam from FPL Family. Game week 1, nearly upon us. We're in the final throes of tinkering, ready for the big kickoff. And I, for one, I'm starting to tinker more. I don't know about you, I've had a whole summer of not really tinkering, starting to ramp up now. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm definitely not ready. I could do with another week.
Another week,
go
please.
back a bit?
That'd be great, another week.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough this year because there's so many players I want and it's working out which of them, and particularly with the blank game week for game week 1, working out how to kind of start your team so that you're okay for game weeks 2 and 3 as well.
It's tough, but on these videos we're going to be doing our points predictor. So one of us will be picking the top picks for defender, midfielder, forward, which is the theme we carried on from last season in the Lee versus Sam videos. We had the defender, midfielder, forward. We're going to do that again. One of us will have the top points pick. So a bit, I want to say obvious picks, but who we expect to do the best.
For that one game week.
For game week 1 in this case, yeah. And one of us, or the other one of us, will have differential picks. So the idea is, the expectation is that whoever's got the top points picked should win that game week. So it's down to the underdog, it's down to the differential picker to win that game week, ready for the next game week when they have the top points pick. Make sense?
Yeah, and by differentials we mean under 10% owned, and the top points picks have to be owned by more than 10% of the game.
So 10% is the cut-off. All right, well, I think it will become clearer as we go, don't you?
Yeah,
I
and
think
obviously,
it's clearer as we
the
go.
same as with Sam versus Lee as we were last year, you can't just pick 3 players from the same team.
Absolutely. So first off, defenders. So I've got the difficult task this week of the differentials. You've got the easy task, right? You've got the who are the top points. I already know who your top points pick defender is going to be, right? I think we know. But I've got the difficult task. I'm going to go differential defenders. And I've gone for Jamal Lascelles. Haven't seen Jamal Lascelles in a lot of first drafts for game week 1, I must admit. Now, if we think back to when the game opened, we had what we thought was a plethora of 4.5 options. We had Ruben Vinagre, and we had, the Charlie Taylors, the Burnley boys, and then we had, Leeds look pretty good. Well, I must admit, I'm sort of moving away from some of those. I'm particularly moving away from Vinagre because Wolves have signed in that position. They've strengthened at the back, certainly on that left side. Yeah. Plus, I'm less convinced now they've lost Otto and Doherty in that Wolves defence. Then I look at the Leeds boys, and Leeds could start well, but it's a bit of an unknown, and we're kind of unsure as to how attacking Dallas and Alien are going to be,
and of course,
et
for game
cetera.
week 1, they're playing Liverpool.
And it's Liverpool game week 1. And then, of course, Charlie Taylor and Burnley don't play at all in game week 1, so that left me with a bit of a headache, frankly, in that 4.5 slot. Pretty happy to have the Kyle Walker-Peters, maybe the Lampteys of this world, but they are over 10% owned at time of recording. Jamal Lascelles is not. He is under 10% owned. A bit of a differential in my mind. Now, we know that he carries a bit of goal threat as well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say Newcastle are going to suddenly turn into, a defensive force. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I will say is they have spent reasonably wisely in this window.
Yes.
Actually, more from an attacking perspective by bringing in the likes of Fraser and Callum Wilson. So maybe Steve Bruce has got one eye on what he's doing at that end of the pitch. But I actually don't think they defended too badly last season. Now, they're away from home. They're at West Ham. The reason I've gone for Lascelles is I think there is something... It's more to do with West Ham than it is with Newcastle, I'll be honest. There's something not quite right at the London Stadium right now. If you think about Dean Garner going to West Brom, there was a bit of a backlash from Noble and some of the other players on Twitter. So feels like there's a bit of an undercurrent of unrest at West Ham. And I wonder whether... If they had a crowd at the London Stadium at the weekend, I think that'd be worse for them. But I still think at home they will be under pressure to win that first game against Newcastle. Given that from game week 2, their fixtures, by the way, are so hard. Yeah. Game weeks like 2 to 8 are so hard for West Ham. So there's a lot of pressure for them to beat Newcastle. Given the undercurrent of unrest, I'm back in Newcastle. Given the good feeling that's at St James's Park with those signings, I think they're going to go out there and do all right. Jamal Lascelles, what do you think?
I don't think it's a bad pick. I think, like you say, it's difficult to pick a differential defender at the minute because we don't have the stats to go on. We only have pre-season, and pre-season is tough to base anything on because they don't play for whole matches, of course. So it is tough to pick a differential. I think Lascelles could be a good option. You're not
feeling it. I can tell. You're not feeling it.
I kind of feel like West Ham, everything you've just said makes me think that West Ham need to win that game, and therefore they might come out
do need to
quite
get
attacking, because if they don't get anything from this game, it's going to be a struggle for them for the next sort of 8 matches after that. So worries me a little bit. Plus Newcastle, during restart, they've defended really well for like 90% of the game, and then the last 5 minutes they just fall off a cliff. So let's see. I think my defender will do better.
You see, I think your defender will do better, but he's well over 10% owned. Probably the highest owned defender in the game right now, Mr. Trent Alexander-Arnold. How long are we spending on each of these sections about premium defenders? Come on, everyone's got Trent.
Well, the thing is, I actually nearly didn't have Trent this week. I very nearly put Robertson as my premium defender for this week on the basis that we haven't seen a lot from Trent in pre-season in terms of this injury problem. Now, we did see him play for England on Tuesday evening.
Got a run out, didn't he?
Yeah, and that in the end is why I decided it would be all right to have Trent. I think...
Rocking the new haircut, by the way. Do you like it? The little mini afro is kind of cool, isn't it?
I think, yeah. I think that he is one of those players that most weeks we can kind of go to as a premium defender of choice.
What made you lean to Robertson, though?
The injuries slightly concerned me in terms of Trent and whether he would get a full 90 minutes in that opening game, particularly as Nico Williams has been playing quite well in pre-season. Yeah. And also Robertson has been on form in pre-season. He's looked really solid. Right, he's been involved in the goal action. But at the end of the day, this is Trent at home against a newly promoted Leeds side. And I don't think there's a much better opportunity for Trent to get an absolute hatful than this one at the start of the season. There will be weeks, obviously, that picking a premium defender will not be a Liverpool one because you'll have a tough game at home. But this is one of those games where I think you want to own Trent.
Yeah, well, listen, Liverpool defensive stats not looking too great between 30 and 38, frankly. Now, listen, different mentality after the league was won, etc., etc. I'm expecting them to switch it back on. But defensively, few people being put off. Are you going to go into game week 1 with Trent and Robbo? Do you think that's on? Yes or no?
No.
Just Trent.
Just Trent.
Just Trent.
Well, and
just
Salah,
Trent.
of course, in the middle.
Trent and Salah. Okay, very good. Right, let's move to defenders then. So here's a differential... Sorry, midfielders, of course. Yeah, doing Dele Alli a disservice. I'm hoping that he's going to play far further up the field towards Kane than defence, frankly. And I think he will, actually. I think he will. I've been watching the All or Nothing documentary that's been on Amazon Prime. We've both been watching
Binging it.
We've been binging it. And do you know what? And I've said it on Twitter and a lot of other places. I have found it really fascinating. It's a really fascinating documentary. It is a little bit Jose Mourinho show, no doubt about it. But one of the players that gets a lot of airtime on that documentary is Dele Alli. You can see that Mourinho believes in this guy. You can see that Mourinho rates him. We had all those comments in the previous season about... we've now got the Dele back and not his brother and all this sort of, typical Jose media spin. But from what I'm seeing on the obviously highly edited documentary, guys, get in the comments below if you've seen the documentary. Give us your thoughts on Dele Alli, the Eriksen saga, what Mourinho says in the dressing room. Really keen to hear your comments about Spurs in the YouTube comments, because I think that documentary has been all revealing, and I think he sees the sort of player that he needs in Dele Alli. He's got a little bit of a... You know what Dele's like? He's a bit of a nasty little streak in him sometimes. He's got that ruthlessness, and he wants to win. A slight bit of arrogance about him in the sort of way that Mourinho likes. Now, the one thing that Mourinho does point out is that he's a lazy trainer, isn't he? He says in that documentary. So if he can get Ali going, and there were signs of that at the back end of last season,
yes,
I think he's one to have a look at.
And in pre-season, I think Dele Alli, of all of the picks that I know you've got today, this is the one that I think could be a really, really nice option. He's one that, for my own personal fantasy team, I would really like to engineer a way to have him in my team, but it's proving a bit difficult with the budget this year. I think with Dele Alli, like you say, there were parts of last season where he was fantastic and he scored some amazing goals, none less than that one against West Ham in Mourinho's, where he kept the ball in and flicked it on, and it was just quite frankly amazing stuff that we saw from him in parts. Yeah. Now, I think that in pre-season we've seen that from Dele Alli again. We've seen just snippets of the Dele of old, and I think he could be a really, really lovely differential pick. I think at Spurs, with the nice run of fixtures that they have, and a reasonable start at home to Everton, where they're going to want to get off to a good start, he could be a good points pick for this week.
Yeah, the other reason I like him is that he's in the 8 million. He's in at 8 million in FPL. Now, for me, that represents a really nice, flexible price bracket. It's not too much of a stretch to get up to the Chelsea midfielders, who absolutely I've got my eye on. I've got my eye on all of them, actually. Frank's got so many options there. I actually don't know which one to pick. I think in my head, I like Pulisic, just because maybe he's got a bit of experience in the league now. And I think of the 3, 4, maybe even 5 options in that Chelsea midfield, I do like Pulisic. So it's not too much of a stretch to go from Ali to Pulisic to Havertz. You can go straight to Ziyech if you want to.
Yeah.
And also you can go down from there easily to Mount if you wanted to, or you can go to the 5.5 St. Maximum, Souček and Ceballos and all those guys as well. Armstrong from Southampton's another one. So I like his price point, Ali. So I like the fact you can go into the season, if he's not on form, doesn't hit the ground running, you can move him on.
Yeah.
And by the time game week 2 or 3 rolls round, and after Chelsea have played Liverpool at Stamford Bridge, we'll know a lot more about Frank's team, right? We'll be a lot more informed.
For sure.
So there we go, Dele Alli, nice 2.6% differential. I like him. I'm probably going to start the season with him. You've gone for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in at 43, Sam, 0.5% ownership. I am not seeing too many drafts without the Arsenal man. Now,
and there's a reason for that.
What is going on here? Reclassified as a midfielder, but looks to be still playing out on the left. So is he going to get as many goals as we think he's going to get?
I think so. I think, we look at Arsenal in pre-season, and Aubameyang has been involved in everything good that has been going on Arsenal attacking-wise. He has been in some way or form part of that. Even when Arsenal lost in pre-season, he still managed a brace in that game. Obviously was pivotal in terms of the Community Shield when Arsenal played in that. He has everything to like about him this season. I think Arteta has created something much, much better at Arsenal. I think the last season was a good setup for them going into this season. And I think as a midfielder now, we obviously benefit from the additional clean sheet points. We benefit from the additional point for every goal that he scores. There's going to be plenty of opportunities, in my view, where Aubameyang, whether he creates them himself or whether it's given to him from Nketiah, who was on good form actually during the internationals this week. I think he makes a lovely pick. And I also think that, when we're talking about top points picks for the game week, you look at, again, as with Trent prior, a newly promoted side, not really up to the Premier League yet. They never are.
Yeah, maybe.
Very rarely does a newly promoted team start with an absolute bang, particularly when you're talking about playing against Liverpool, and indeed in this case against Arsenal. They're going to be really tough games. It's a London derby. Whether Fulham have the legs for the Premier League yet remains to be seen. We'll find out on Saturday. It's the opening fixture of the game week, so there's always that who's going to be the first player to score the opening Premier League goal, and he's the sort of man that's going to want that in his locker. I really like him, and I think if you don't own him at 43% owned, it's going to hurt.
I think he's going to be highly capped in game week 1 for sure, probably even game week 2 with that home game to West Ham. Now, the one thing I will say about Arsenal's pre-season is they haven't really had one, have they? They've kind of just gone from FA Cup final to Community Shield. All right, the Community Shield is more on the side. If we'd won it, I wouldn't say it's a friendly, but we didn't win it, so it's a friendly. But it's an intense game against Liverpool in the Community Shield. So all the other teams seem to have had a slightly longer break, and maybe that might take them a game or two to get match fitness. I wonder whether the fact that Arsenal haven't had a break might benefit them at the beginning of the season, might hinder them at the end, because they've got a lot of competitions to play, etc. But he's building that squad, and he's got options now in each of those midfield positions. So I wonder whether they might just hit the ground running, Arsenal. And I'm willing to back Aubameyang at that price, and given that he's a midfielder now.
Absolutely.
There we go. So highly owned Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, a midfielder this year, guys, in FPL. But if you don't fancy going for Aubameyang and you still want to invest in Arsenal, look no further than Eddie Nketiah up front. Now, still a little bit of a question mark. I hear what you're saying. A little bit of a question mark over his starting time, whether he's always going to play. At time of recording, Lacazette is still an Arsenal player, been linked away with Arsenal, of course. But right now, it looks as if Eddie Nketiah is going to be a key player under Arteta for Arsenal. Now, if you think about the position that he's going to play, he is that out-and-out number 9. And Arteta has, in the past, certainly since we restarted in game week 30 of last season, and we've seen it in the Community Shield, and we've seen it at an international level, as you said before, Eddie Nketiah, bang on form right now, bang on form. A hat-trick, I think, for the Young Lions the other night. And Arteta seems to want to put Aubameyang left to accommodate Nketiah sometimes. So why are we not jumping on Eddie Nketiah at 6 million? We should be, shouldn't we? There's a lot of nice price forwards in that bracket. But Eddie Nketiah at 6.0 looks really good. Think of all that creativity that's around him. Not just Aubameyang, but he's got Pepe and Willian now on that side. He's got Saka maybe left or right. He's got Ceballos that they've just captured again, I think, from Real Madrid. It's looking pretty good for them, isn't it?
Yeah, So I think Eddie Nketiah could be a good option. I think he's a bit of a risk, actually, in terms of game time, in terms of whether Lacazette's still at the club, in terms of which position he chooses to play Aubameyang in, because obviously there is still scope that you could just stick Aubameyang up top rather than wide.
Yeah.
So there's all that risk that comes at play, and I think for me, he feels risky. I don't know. I mean, at that same price point, there's Mitrovic, who obviously is playing against Nketiah this weekend. I really like Shay Adams, as I've said multiple times.
You do like a bit of Shay Adams, yeah. I'll give you that.
I really am keen on him for this season, and it obviously falls into that same price point as well. Go up just by a little bit more, and you can have Callum Wilson now, who's tried and tested in the Premier League and has some really, really effective players behind him in the likes of St Maximin and Ryan Fraser. So I'm not
2%
sold.
owned though. If we're talking about everyone's got a Aubameyang because of Fulham, West Ham, the fixtures look great. 2% owned. I mean, could do just as well as Aubameyang in those fixtures.
As a differential pick, I'll give it to you, but I think there's better.
All right. Okay. Well, listen. That's my differential pick in the forward line. Let's go for the let's call the safe. Can we get through an FF Scout / FPL Family video without Sam mentioning Harry Kane? The answer to that, of course, folks, is no. You've gone for Harry Kane, 15.5% ownership, 10.5 million in the game, same as Aguero, the highest priced player in the game, joint highest priced player in the game. Home to Everton, you're obviously backing him.
Forward in the game.
Yeah.
I am backing him. I think in much the same way that you said about Dele Alli before, this is Mourinho's first full season in charge of Spurs. It is the opportunity that we need in order to win something. And we are, at this point, going into a very congested period of fixtures for Spurs. For me, Kane needs to get off the ground running. It's not August, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, true.
So we should see him getting off. He's fully recovered from his injury. It looks like everything is kind of pointing in the right direction, and I would expect in a home game against Everton, who defensively sometimes they're brilliant, sometimes they're not. It depends on kind of how they.
Good feeling about Everton though right now with some of the
Yes,
the transfers that are coming in, James Rodriguez and Alan.
Yeah,
there's a good feeling about Everton all of a sudden.
Maybe I think that. Look, it's always a decent game. It's always high scoring. Spurs versus Everton always ends up being high scoring
0-0
matches.
incoming.
No, I very much doubt that. It wasn't that long ago. It was like they were thrillers. They're always high scoring, and Kane does like to score in those matches. So for me, I think he will do well in game week 1. And when you're looking at the premium forward options, I think he has the nicest fixture of all of them going into game week 1. You can't guarantee. Aguero won't be there in game week 1 because they're not playing. I'm not convinced about Jamie Vardy's form coming into the opening game week of the season. Danny Ings is another good option, I think, but for me, it's all about Harry Kane in game week 1. He'll probably be my captain this week.
Oh, goodness me. When everyone's going to the other side of London, you're going for Harry Kane. I can't argue with it. He's obviously 10.5 in the game for a reason. My only concern about starting with him is his injury record. It really is. And if I think about, I keep harking back to the All or Nothing documentary, but guys, if you haven't checked it out, do. It's really, really good if you get the chance. The reason he got that hamstring injury towards the end of last season was because Mourinho played him all of the games, all of the schedule was so hectic, and he played 90 minutes more or less, twice a week, and he hasn't got the injury. His body, I don't think, can cope with that. And he's got a dodgy ankle, we know about that. It was his hamstring that went at the end of the last season. Now, my concern is that you come into the new season, Spurs have got the fixture congestion is just ridiculous. Yeah, it's like a game every 3 days or something stupid for 2 months. Now, if Mourinho takes the same approach with Kane that he did at the end of last season and just plays him, my view is it's a matter of time before he gets injured.
But I only need to worry for game week 1. Because this is a
transferring
game week 1
out in game week 2.
Well, no, of course I personally won't be, but for the purpose of our competition,
oh, I see. It's all about beating me.
It's a game week 1 pick.
Okay.
So I'm only worried about their fixture in game week 1. At home to Everton in game week 1, Harry Kane loves to score against them. It's the first fixture of Mourinho's full season in charge. I'll guarantee you, Kane scores.
Guaranteeing me Kane scores. There we go, guys. Listen, I guarantee there from Sam that Kane scores, and a guarantee from me that Mourinho flogs him to death and he pops his hamstring between game weeks 5 and 6. Listen, thank you for joining us for this video. It's been really, really great for you to join us. Next week, I'll have the top picks. You'll have the differential, so a bit more thinking required after game week 1 for you. Maybe a bit less so thinking for me. I think I'm gonna go with the obvious top points picks, but let's see.
It might be the week where I get to pick Man City and Man United as differentials because nobody owns them.
Could be. Well, listen, guys, the time is running out. Get those teams locked in. We're only a few days away from the start of game week 1 and football kicking off again, which I, for one, cannot wait for. Get in the comments below. Let us know what you think about Spurs. Dele Alli, Kane featured in this video. We've talked a lot about the All or Nothing documentary. Any Spurs players in your draft? Do you like Dele Alli? Do you like Eric Dyer at the back, only 5.0 million? Do you like Ben Davis at the back as well? What about new boy Matty, how are we saying it, Doherty?
Doherty.
Matt, how do you like the Irish wing back for Spurs? How are we feeling about Matt Doherty? Get in the comments below, guys. Let us know. Join us next week. I'll have the top picks. Sam will have the differentials. Hit that subscribe button. Leave us a like before you go, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Bye, guys.